Welcome back to Pixel Project Radio, the video game discussions podcast where we do deep dives and analyze all of our favorite games and some of yours too. My name is Rick, and today takes us to an eventful night in the city of Edge with The Bouncer, Square's first offering on the PS2. Up front, as always, I've got to thank the patrons. Without the patrons, this train wouldn't move on through the city of Edge quite as steadily as it does. Patrons are a fine group of folks that believe in the show. If you would like to be like these fine fellows, you can head on over to patreon.com/pixelprojectradio and you can see what a couple bucks a month gets you. Get you some special stuff. We can talk more about that later. For today, I've got a guest with me as always. Today, I'm joined by returning guest to the show, Phil from Deleted Saves. Thanks for joining me, my friend. How's it going?
Thanks, it's going well. And remember, that train is carrying rocket fuel.
I am excited to talk about this one. This game is somewhat infamous, and, you know, for good reason. For good reason. Up front, if you're new to the show, first of all, welcome. We're glad that you're here. The way that it works on Pixel Project Radio is we start with an overview discussion of the game that we're talking about, things like mechanics, personal histories, music, things of that nature. And then we move into story discussion where we break things down beat by beat. We don't spoil anything before we get there, so things in Chapter 5 won't be spoiled before we get to the story or in Chapter 1, etc. And for this game, well, that's just going to be a real blast. It's going to be a real blast. Let's move on to talking about The Bouncer. So, Phil, when did you first play this game? Were you aware of this upon release? Were you playing it back then? Did you come to it later after it earned its reputation? What's your history with this game?
Well, I actually did get this. I know it was a PS2 launch title. I didn't get it at PS2 launch. The first real games I had from my PS2 were, as I've said, Final Fantasy X, Silent Hill 2, Devil May Cry. I didn't come to this one till probably maybe a year or two after it released, but I didn't really know anything about it. I somehow missed this in the cycle of the games media at the time. And all I knew it was going to be a beat-em-up. I'm like, I love beat-em-ups. The genre had been dead for a number of years at that point. So being a sucker for it, I'm willing to go for it. And it was Squaresoft. I'm like, it's the Final Fantasy people. How bad could this be? And I bought it. And I played it. And I went, oh no, we have problems.
It gets that kind of reaction. And we should say this up top, too. You know, I've been vocal on this show about not shitting on games for the sake of shitting on them, you know, and being a bad sport about things. I think back to the Detroit Become Human episodes. You know, that's a game that I don't think is that great. But we gave it a chance, and we talked about what it does well. We talked about what it didn't do well. We're going to do the same here. You know, we're going to talk about what this game does well. And there are some things that are genuinely good about this game. But we're also going to have some fun. We're going to rib it a bit. We're going to jest in good fun. It's going to be a blast because this game is hilarious in more ways than one. Sometimes on purpose, sometimes not. A lot of the times not on purpose, though.
Very true.
I was not aware of this game whenever it was current. This game, by the way, came out in 2001 if you're in the States, 2000 in Japan. I was not aware of this whenever it first came out, but I can tell you pretty confidently that if I were, which, when would that, how old would I have been? I would have been in elementary school. I would have made this game my entire personality. I absolutely would have been obsessed with this game. Especially, you know, at the time I was also, and this would have been a little bit later, but I was very into Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy X at the time. There's a game on PlayStation 2 called EOE, Eve of Extinction, that reminds me of this game, kind of, that I was super into. I would have eaten this game up, but alas, I had no idea what it was. I didn't play it until this episode, this fateful episode that we're recording. And, you know, its reputation preceded it a little bit, but I had fun, and I think I'm going to have even more fun talking about it with you today.
Yeah, this is a game I also, in the sake of transparency, a couple of years ago on my own show, I did an episode specifically about this in my now completed series of games called We Need to Talk. this game does have good points. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but those do not outshine the remainder of it by any stretch.
I will say, I feel more positively towards it than I do with something like Detroit, and I don't mean to keep using Detroit as a punching bag. It's just, it's semi-recent to pixelprojectradio. By the way, We Need to Talk is an excellent series title, and this is an excellent contender to be in that series. When this game stumbles, it does so in a way that, it feels like it's laughing with you in a lot of these areas. It doesn't feel like it's trying to be something it's not. When I think of The Bouncer, I think it knows that it is just an hour-and-a-half long action flick that you catch on cable across a 2.5-hour time slot with ads. Commercials is what we used to call those in the old days. It knows that that's what it is. It's not trying to be profound. It's not, Tetsuya Nomura, who was involved in this, isn't trying to pull some profound story over on the players. He's not doing any of that. I think they knew that this was just going to be a fun romp on the PS2. And, credit where it's due. It accomplishes that. I don't know if it's always in the way that they had hoped, but they accomplished that. It's an entertaining 2 hours.
Yeah, this is exactly like what you would expect from a 1980s action flick starring Brian Bosworth. This would have been a sequel to Stone Cold. In fact, in my own review, I specifically went out of the way to say this game plays a lot like if Roger Corman directed Three Men and a Baby. So, schlock up to the hilt.
If I were a film guy, I'm confident that I would have loved that comparison. But instead, I'm nodding politely.
That's okay. I'm not really a film guy either. It just so happens that I've watched enough reactors reacting to other films that I kind of picked up a little bit of the lingo along the way.
I get you. I see what you're saying. And that's what we hope to do here. We hope to react to games so you can react to us reacting to games, and so goes on this beautiful chain of ours. That's what it's all about, right? Reactions. Speaking of reactions, how about that segue? We've got the Community Forum. If you're new to the show, the Community Forum is a channel in the Discord server where folks can contribute their thoughts, feelings, opinions, haikus on the games we are playing on the show. They write them, I read them, with great power, etc., etc. And we do have a couple of responses today for The Bouncer. First up, we've got Chris Copleen from Retro Hangover Podcast. Here's what Chris has to say. I could talk about this game's awkward gameplay, nonsensical plot, incredibly stilted pacing, or incredible graphical presentation, but instead, I'm just going to laugh. Ha 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 ha. And then Chris followed up with another one that said also robot lolly sex. And I don't remember that being in the game. I'm not sure. Maybe Chris was distracted.
Well, there definitely is a lolly bot, but there's no lolly sex. But, we will, like they say in the song, be like that old man in the book by Nabokov.
Next up, we've got Matt Stormageddon from the Fun and Games podcast. Matt is a little more positive on it than Chris was. Here's what Matt has to say. I have such fondness for this game. It was one of the 2 games I got with my PS2 when I first bought it. The other game was Devil May Cry. Oh man, speaking of stilted voice acting, that's got one of the all-timers.
I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light.
While it's been a while since I've played it, I remember loving it back then. It's basically a Squaresoft beat-em-up game. A thing that just doesn't exist anymore in modern Square's repertoire. It feels like an anomaly to look back on it. It's also one of the few physical games I still have from my original collection, and Matt followed up with a beautiful CIB picture of their copy of The Bouncer. And it's wonderful. I don't have this in my collection. It's not an expensive game. It's like $15, $20. It's not that bad, but I haven't picked it up yet.
Yeah, it's I think still pretty easy to find for reasonable prices if you're a collector. And Matt is right. This game is an anomaly, especially in Square's catalog, for different reasons.
And we'll get into, whenever we talk about the mechanics, why it might be better to play this on original hardware as opposed to emulation. There actually is a very good reason for that, but we'll get there. Let's talk some hard facts and figures first. The Bouncer, this was released in
Bouncer.
December of 2000 in Japan, March of the following year, 2001 in North America, June of that year in the EU. This was Square's first PS2 title. My understanding was that they were intending this to be a launch title, but things just got kind of pushed back. It only got pushed back by a little bit. The PS2 came out, I want to say July of 2000? Is that right?
I believe so, yeah.
I think so, too. That sounds about right. So only a couple months off. Not too bad. The full credits, you can find those on the wiki or the IDMB. Oh, my goodness. Look at what the Bouncer's doing to me. IMDb. Or you can just beat the game. And it's only like 2 hours long, so you certainly could. But of note, this was developed by Dream Factory and published by Square in Japan, Square Electronic Arts, in North America, and Sony Computer Entertainment for the PAL version. Directed by Takashi Takeda, who, talk about a weighted name, was on Chrono Trigger, Parasite Eve 1 and 2, and Live Alive, as well as co-directed by Seiichi Ishii, fighting game royalty, Virtua Fighter, Tekken 1 and 2, Tobal number 1 and 2, Street Fighter EX2 Plus, and Guys, God Bless the Ring.
God bless that ring.
Produced by Shinji Hashimoto, art by, of course, Tetsuya Nomura. You take one look at it and you can see it. Composers, there's a duo of composers here, Noriko Matsueda and Takahito Eguchi. They seem to work together quite a lot. They also work together on Racing Lagoon, and I clocked this immediately upon hearing this soundtrack, Final Fantasy X-2. So the team on this had some serious weight behind them. This was set up to be a hell of an experience.
Yeah, this was, and I have a fair idea there may have been sequels even planned. In fact, strangely enough, I picked this up from YouTuber sensation Matt McMuscles. He did a video about this game, and originally when it was planned, speaking of Guys, God bless that ring, was actually supposed to be either a semi-sequel or a spiritual successor to Guys in its initial inception.
I did read that, yeah. When this game was being teased, at the time, Square, it was known that Square was working on 3 games. There was a JRPG, an unknown game, and then a fighting game. And a lot of folks thought that this was based on the early advertisements, the early, press releases. They were thinking that this was going to be an Guys sequel. But then Square said, no. This is an original IP. This is a brand new thing.
And like you said, it's also, with the weight behind it, some of the characters even fight in this game like they came from the Tekken moveset.
Oh, yeah. And you can, that's why they brought Ishii on. For as much as we're going to rib and kind of joke about this game, laugh with this game, I think it's fair to say, it's not that they weren't trying to do some really unique things. And in fact, let's talk about some of the more positive things that this game does. I kind of front-loaded this in a way to be very, very positive. One more thing before we move on to the visuals, which are honestly very, very good. The early impressions of this game from like demos and, like I said, the tech demos, presentation kits, were very, very positive. Like you said, Phil, a lot of folks thought that this might be an Guys sequel. Square was boasting their seamless action battle system, which in theory was going to prevent any FMVs or loading screens from this game. You would just walk around to different areas, fight, story, which at the time was not something that's super common. Nowadays, you see that everywhere. That did not happen, which we'll talk about once we get to the gameplay experience. But let's talk visuals. This game looks really, really good. And at the time, this was top of the line.
Oh, yeah. No, my PS2, when this would load up, you would hear the fans start to kick on. This thing was gorgeous. It still is. It's still a pretty good-looking game. It's very, played well even on CRT TVs, which is what we had at the time. The graphics they're Square. They're Square graphics. They are exactly the next step up of what we would later see in a slightly more clean version in like Final Fantasy X or something like that in the PS2 and beyond. They're good. They're good. And there's a lot of them, so I hope you goddamn like them because you're going to be seeing them.
Yeah, this was basically the best the PS2 was looking up until like Final Fantasy X came out a couple months later.
Yeah.
really, really did look quite nice. And the cinematography, too. I didn't take any notes on this, but it bears mentioning, yeah, sometimes they do go for the really cheesy action flick kind of cinematography. But, I mean, like you said, this is Square we're talking about. They do this stuff really well. And from a presentation standpoint, the cinematography, too, it's quite nice. They're not slouching here. I don't know about you, Phil. Are you like would you call yourself a hardcore graphics guy? Like, do you get into the nitty-gritty of fidelity?
No, I'm literally like, as long as I'm interested in the premise, I mean, it could be stick figure graphics at this point. I'm cool with that. If it looks pretty, great. But I'm also one of those guys that the more I think about it, I'm beginning to wonder if these lifelike presentation graphics are really going to hold up in the decades to come.
Oh, you and me both, man. I mean, I think we've talked about this off mic or on a different show before, but I'm very much in the camp that you're in with like we had talked about Pentiment, a game that I think we both really,
Yes.
really love, and how
Yes,
that
absolutely.
visually that game was a feast, and it's going to look amazing and beautiful in decades to come.
Yeah, into perpetuity, yeah.
I'm with you, man, and like I'm playing Clair Obscur right now, Expedition 33, and
Oh, I can't wait. I so want to play that one.
oh, brother. Oh, man, dude. We got to stay focused. Otherwise, I'm going to go off on a tangent about that. But I built my PC a couple months ago at the very end of last year. And now that I can, handle games like this, it looks amazing. However, as amazing as it does look, and believe me, it looks amazing, I still look at games like Pentiment, for example, and think, golly, that looks good. Detroit Become Human looks very, very good. It's a great game. But then I see games like Hades, and I'm like, ooh, that looks good. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm having a similar thing right now. What I'm playing is I recently started playing Banisher's Ghost of New Eden, which is a great game. I'm loving the story. It's very lifelike graphics, spiritual sequel to Vampire, the people who made Dontnod and stuff like that. And right next to it, I'm playing Darkest Dungeon 2, which is heavily stylized, sort of more cartoony. And the two side by side, very different products, very gorgeous graphics. But in the end, I do feel Darkest Dungeon, because of its heavy stylization, may hold up in perpetuity, in ongoing from this point.
All this to say, I'm about to list off some stuff. I am not one to talk jargon. I don't talk turkey when it comes to this kind of thing. But I did want to mention this because this game looks really, really good. This game used an early version of Light Bloom, as well as some depth of field of effects to produce a more cinematic atmosphere. Now, this is common now. This is kind of expected, especially in the AAA sphere. But back then, remember, this was one of the first games on the PS2. It missed the launch of the PS2 just by a few months. This was before Final Fantasy X. They didn't do that back then. Not really. So seeing
The Bouncer
today, it doesn't look novel. But back then, like we said, this was the cream of the crop. And Takashi Takeda said in an interview, he said, quote, "No matter how many polygons you use or how realistic the textures are, without filters and lighting, CG pictures will be of a quality lower than that of a figurine. In order to create atmosphere, we spent much time on filters and lighting." End quote. And I don't know about you, man. I'm guessing you're going to agree with me, but I think that really helps this game. The way this looks and is presented is one of its strongest suits.
Yeah, absolutely. The extra time they put into the graphics, again, it was Square. I truly would expect no less, to help it look the best it could. Is, whether it's from the cutscenes or transition back into the actual action of the game, is its strongest suit. There is nothing, at least at the time. I mean, you could even, again, let's compare it to Devil May Cry, which by comparison, side-by-side graphics alone, I'm not talking gameplay, Devil May Cry looks a little stilted, whereas the graphics alone from the Bouncer look lush by comparison. Now, these, again, we're talking 2001 standards, so anyone out there who's like, "But my modern game looks like," shut up. We're not talking about that. We're talking 2001 graphics. But yeah, it's the bloom, the lighting, beautiful, great stuff.
And this is an area, too. This is one of two major points that I'll say in favor of CRT gaming. When you emulate this, yeah, it's going to look really good. But I think some of that magic is going to be lost if you're not playing this on a CRT. It's still going to look good, and you're still going to notice the bloom, the depth of field on an emulator. I don't know why I stressed it that way, an emulator. But
better yet, a Terminator, just like the emulator.
On a CRT, this would just look like this is going to be some of the best CRT gaming in terms of graphical presentation that you're going to see. I'm not saying it is the best. The director worked on Parasite Eve. That's one of the best looking PlayStation 1 games, if you ask me. But the bouncer on a CRT, I bet that would look amazing. We had mentioned briefly before the seamless scene transition. That was their intent. They had the best of intentions, and like all good intentions, that paved road leads straight to hell because this game kind of does the opposite. You are going to go through 1 to 2 minute gameplay experiences with very few exceptions thrown in there. The shortest of them that I remember is literally, I think, 45 seconds, but you'll go through that. After each and every play session, you'll get to save, and then you'll go into a cutscene. And the experience of going through this game is very herky-jerky. It's very stilted. Mm-hmm. But hey, to its credit, you get to save often, which is pretty sweet, I guess.
Yep. As seamless as falling up the stairs. That's about how seamless this was. It's God almighty. Anyway, before I don't want to spoil anything, so.
Hey, no. That's totally fine. We'll get there. So, we're going to go compliment sandwich style. We started with something positive, the visuals. We're going to save the other positive section. So now let's get into something that's a little, maybe could use some TLC. Let's talk the mechanics. Let's talk about how this game plays. This is where the game starts to ragdoll all over itself. That's not a good joke, but it's true, man. It's true. Ragdoll physics are very, very pronounced in this game, and boy howdy, does it lead to some unintentional hilarity.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, in the combat sequences in this game, the best way to get through enemy groups is to do one of the various fighters that you can pick have like just a deep uppercut or very low kick maneuver to knock them, and Jesus Christ, they fly around the screen. You'd think it was the Flying Nun. They bounce off walls, they fly into each other, and it's not even like a fighting game juggle. They just soar through the air, and away they go. And you watch one of the computer enemies kick them and pick them up, and one of your computer pals kill them, and you don't get experience. And you go, shit.
Oh, buddy. Well, believe me, that was a sticking point. That stuck in my craw this entire game. You are going to get juggled, and enemies are going to get juggled. Juggling is a key mechanic in this game. Basically, anyway. For those that might not know, and actually, perhaps we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. That's on me. The way this game plays is it's a third-person beat-em-up, as Matt and Chris alluded to, as you alluded to, Phil. But it's not a beat-em-up like you would expect with, like, River City Girls, for example, or, those Power Ranger games.
It's not a Final Fight. It's not a Streets of Rage. One of the funniest things in the game you will see is the one character, Ko, will do, like, a two-legged flying kick. An enemy will straight punch him, like, right in the dick, and Ko just crumples right out of the sky.
You're going to be going around in third person, generally in, like, small arena-ish styles. I mean, not a literal arena. It'll be like a room, a street, but there are those invisible barriers. And you're going to be fighting enemies. It's going to be you and two of your comrades. We'll talk about the
bouncers
here pretty soon. And the three of you are going to be fighting various kinds of enemies. Generally, they are people, robots, and dogs. You get to do a lot of fucking uppercutting dogs into the air and just juggling them and yeeting them across the room. It's pretty funny. My strategy against dogs, since they can't block in this game, was to just sweep kick them nonstop and basically stun lock them into losing all of their health.
Listeners, I will tell you this. If you ever fantasized about punching a mall security guard, this is the game for you, because you're going to be doing it a lot.
Whomst among us hasn't?
Truly, truly.
Juggling is a key part of this game. You are going to want to juggle these enemies, and you are going to get juggled yourself. If you've never played a fighting game, juggling is where you get knocked into the air or you knock your opponent into the air, and you use your combos to keep them in the air for maximum damage. The main character of this game, a fella named Sion, a.k.a. Temu Sora, he's got a pretty basic 1-2 juggle combo. 2 uppercuts that'll juggle them, and then you can time a roundhouse kick, like in Roadhouse, to get him in the air. Pretty common. But and when we say it like this, you might be thinking like, oh wow, the mechanics sound really cool, but it doesn't. I mean, playing this game, if I can be so bold, is a chore. It's not very fun.
No. Unfortunately, for as good as it looks and as great as those mechanics may sound, it's very slow. I mean, everyone feels like they have like lead weights in their pockets, and there's cheap shots aplenty. There's even the problem is I'm gonna bring this up too. There is the possibility that you can get a team attack on one specific opponent. Generally, you have to listen to one of the other AI-controlled characters yell out a phrase, and then there's an attack button you can hit, I forget which one, that'll launch into another cutscene, FMV, of them pile driving some poor sod, and if it's a dog, you're going to feel real bad, into the ground. Like, I mean, I'm not kidding. The one you get frequently will be the character of Ko will grab somebody, break their arm, shove them forward into Volt, your powerhouse, who picks them up bodily by the neck, slams them into the pavement, and Sion comes by like Charlie Brown and kicks them right in the teeth.
And I don't know about you, but I rarely got this to work. I think maybe once in my entire playthrough was I able to pull this off. It's not intuitive. You have to listen to them do their taunt, and if you miss the time window and do yours, you just kind of taunt and nothing happens. It doesn't do very much damage for as badass as they made it look. It's kind of tiddlywinks. It's kind of not worth trying to do.
No, it's actually not very powerful. Your basic attacks do more damage. And we'll get into spoilers. There is one enemy in the game that this attack will not work against.
Oh, no kidding. Who is that?
That would be the final boss.
Oh, really?
Duragon. If you attempt to pull this on Duragon, he slips out of all 3 of them, and they all stand around stupidly as he disappears.
That's kind of cool, though. Like, given his lore, what we know about his lore, that's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You had mentioned your normal attacks. Let's talk those for a second. You get medium attacks, light attacks, and heavy attacks, or I think it's maybe low, mid, and high, actually, now that I think of it. And those are relegated to your face buttons, your squares, your triangles, and your X's. Crosses, if you're from across the pond. Your circle button is going to do, it's kind of like a heavy sort of like wind-up attack. Volt does just a fucking body slam. I think Ko does that too, that flying kick that you had mentioned, and Sion does like a sort of wind-up roundhouse kick. It's a heavy damage dealer, but it leaves you very vulnerable. It's high commitment. And speaking of high commitment, the combo system in this game is one of the reasons that makes it kind of frustrating to play. Do you know, Phil, the term dial-a-combo? If I said that to you, does that mean anything?
I believe I do, yes.
That's a common criticism folks will give to Mortal Kombat. One that I don't have any negative feelings towards it, but all dial-a-combo means is you've got to punch in your combo as quickly as possible for it to take effect. In other words, it's not like Street Fighter where punch, kick has to be timed out so the second punch comes after the first and the kick comes after that. It's not quite like that. You just press stuff as quickly as possible. The problem with the bouncer is those dial-a-combos have a large commitment. Your characters move kind of slow, and you have to commit to this combo, 3-4 hit combo, before you know if it's going to work. And if the enemy blocks it, well, you can't cancel out of these combos. You're stuck, and you're very committed. And being that that's a core part of the toolkit, it makes this game feel more like you're sort of just always guessing and flailing. Flailing because of the ragdoll physics, of course.
Yeah.
And it's just not fun to play. It's this is kind of the definition of like a cousin game, a cousin party game. It's not about skill. You just kind of press buttons until you win.
Yeah, and they go away. The other major mechanic of this game is that it is a hybrid light RPG. Every enemy you defeat, if it's your main character, whichever of the three fighters you picked, and they defeat the enemy, you get experience. You get experience points racked up, and at the end of the combat scene, the screen in between save transitions will tally it, and you can actually pick, do you want to increase your health? Do you want to increase your defense? There's a block button. I did not know there was a block button until I watched another YouTuber do it. And you can also pick various special moves that you can add to your combo. And you better commit to one character, because if you try to spread it out, you're going to get stomped towards the end of the game.
That's true. That's true. And speaking of, you can select a different fighter at the beginning of each round, and there are 17-ish rounds, 20 maybe. So you can experiment, and you might be thinking like, oh, okay, if I can experiment, I can choose different fighters, I can level them up differently. You kind of don't want to do that. This game, it doesn't explicitly tell you, but it wants you to play through one route per character, partly because the fights can get a little difficult, and difficult both in terms of the enemy's skill and just you're fighting against the system itself, the mechanics, and having as many points into one character as possible is generally advisable, but also because of story reasons, and we'll talk about that soon. You mentioned the bouncer points, Phil, and you alluded to this earlier. Do you want to say what happens if your teammates try to help you win?
Yeah. Again, in this game, all three bouncers will be on the screen at the same time. No matter who you pick, everyone will be there. You're not left alone, and they're like off fighting a couple of dudes in a corner. This is not a Bruce Lee film. But they will assist you, and they will kill steal. And if your AI companions get the final blow, you don't get any experience. So if you stand back and do nothing, or get your butt kicked, you're not going to get any advancement that round.
And it's not even about just standing back and letting them take care of things. You could take care of the entire fight. If they get the last hit, you don't get any EXP at all. And for a game that lets you play as each character and build them up however you want, that seems very counterintuitive to me, and extraordinarily frustrating. I had, I think, 2 bosses. One of my teammates stole the kill, and I got nothing. Zilch, zip, butt kiss. I got nothing from that fight, and that sucks, man. What a perplexing choice they chose.
Somewhat horrifically ironic, considering this is a pedigree studio who does RPGs, to just fuck that whole system right in the ear.
Yeah, it's very perplexing. You would think Square would have made a better decision with that. And especially, the director, Parasite Eve, there was some unconventional, well, I don't want to say unconventional, but that was a different kind of RPG. Chrono Trigger, what more needs to be said?
What more do we need to say, really?
A very perplexing choice here, very frustrating choice. What this led to was me just kind of getting in their way and spamming as much as possible. Spamming was kind of how I got through this game. At a certain point, I was just like, I don't remember what move I was doing with my guys, but I was just repeating that one move over and over again to sweep as many enemies as possible to get the points,
It's one of these games where I hate to say it, sweep the leg is your best attack.
Dude, you gotta sweep the leg. Sweeping the leg is how you win, especially against dogs, dude. This is a podcast that'll teach you how to beat up dogs, and the answer is sweep the legs. There's 4 of them.
The ASPCA is going to be on our asses now.
Yeah, we're canceled by PETA. PETA canceled us.
Oh, fuck PETA.
Speaking of, we would be remiss not to mention this. The second reason that I think playing this on original hardware is preferable is that this is one of the few games that makes use of a DualShock 2 and DualShock 3 feature that I think not a lot of folks know about. Those controllers had pressure-sensitive buttons, and this game uses those. And you might be thinking, well, hey, golly gee, that sounds terrific. Pressure-sensitive, that's so innovative. That's not how fighting games work. And why they chose
not
this.
At all.
Think about being at a fighting game, at an arcade. Think of playing on an arcade cabinet with the Sanwa buttons. Those are not pressure-sensitive. You've got to do some acrobatics to get your 3-hit combos in on Street Fighter or Virtua Fighter. you've got to be pressing those buttons. Pressure sensitive, especially in an in the moment genre like a beat 'em up or a fighting game, is just so counterintuitive. It's totally against the grain. It's cool on paper, but in practice, this was just bizarre. And I don't know. I emulated it for this playthrough. I don't own it, so I played it on my computer in an emulator, and I think the pressure sensitive attacks and combos were just kind of random. I don't think there was a rhyme or reason to it.
I mean, even in the original PS2 controller, and I know they did utilize it, and a lot of times it just didn't really feel like it was working as intended. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I'm sure someone out there will correct me about how they played the bouncer with their ass cheeks ever so lovingly and gently and managed to get all the way to the end. But for me, it just, as you said, felt random. It was needless, I do believe, in the end. Needless would be the word I'm looking for.
And I want to say it's Sion. You get combos listed out for you in the instruction manual of the game. And I think Sion's is like, square, 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 but the middle square has to be pressed hard. So it's like light square, hard square, light square. And in the moment, especially with the dial-up combo system where you've got to push things fast, 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 I mean, it's just, there's too much going on to make things cohesive. Everything's working against each other. And one other thing that's working against everything is the lock-on system. It's automatic.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it don't work so good. No, you can't. And it's very frustrating because your character's walk speed and gait and directional autonomy changes once you lock onto somebody. And I don't think you can you block whenever you're not locked on? I actually don't remember that.
I don't know. Like I said, I didn't find out there was a block system until I watched Josh Strife Hayes and doing his video on The Bouncer. The Bouncer.
The Bouncer.
Was it any good? And I'm like, there was a block button that whole fucking time? Because they never tell you that.
I was getting tossed like salad for no reason? Can you
Yeah,
say that
exactly.
outside of a sexual context? I don't know. I just did.
I guess we're doing it. We're fucking doing it live. Yeah, but no. And turns out one of those 3 goddamn meters you can increase is your endurance in blocking. And once you're wiped out, you can't do it ever again for the rest of the stage. So don't get hit.
Oh, that's right. I almost forgot about that. Another perplexing mechanic.
Yeah. There are some things that are not clearly laid out, even I don't believe in the instruction manual.
There are a lot of things that aren't explained in The Bouncer. Yeah, just...
The Bouncer!
I mean, there's just a lot going on with the mechanics that are actively working against each other. It makes this an interesting game to sit down and play, but in terms of anything that's fighting adjacent or... I mean, Jesus Christ, the co-director, Virtua Fighter, that's one of the most mechanically... I don't want to say complex because that gives the wrong idea. Mechanically intense games out there. I mean, because it's so simple, you've got to have a deep understanding of startup frames and commitments and, I mean, frame data in general and things like that. You would think having somebody on there with that pedigree, you would think at some point he would have said, hey, actually, these don't work so well together. We're petting the cat backwards here. But no, you get this weird gumbo of mechanics that kind of fight with each other, and then you fight with them, and Mugetsu juggles you, and you just get to watch as your legs flail through the air.
Pretty much. Again, and just as coming as an outsider, watching the fighting game genre as a thing, the technical experience at this point, most, not even the professional level players, but even somebody at a home sort of console who does well, you have to be, as you said, cognizant of startup frames, intermittent frames, actual timing mechanisms, when to press the button, how to press the button, to be able to do a lot of the combinations we see in so many fighting games, especially as they've gotten more complex into the modern day. And this system is trying to include it. It's almost occult in its level of sort of arcane academic background. It's weird. It's why the hell did they do this? And there's Mr. Nomura in the lot of it, the whole center of it going, we need more belts and we need more chains.
He can't be stopped, this man. You know what,
he
though?
cannot be. He's a wild animal.
I could forgive the pressure-sensitive buttons. I could forgive the auto lock-on. They don't even need to make this a more innovative fighting experience. The one thing that would have fixed this for me would have been the ability to cancel. Listeners, if you don't know, what canceling means in fighting game terminology is being able to go from one attack to another very quickly. And the way that you do this is by entering in the command like immediately. This happens in dial-up combos all the time. You know, the classic example is light punch for, well, maybe that's not, what's an example that I just did earlier today? Crouching medium kick into a Shoryuken. You enter them one after another and you cancel into that special attack. That's what that's called. Or you press a fight button, an attack button, and jump immediately. That's called a jump cancel. If you could just cancel out of the ridiculous commitments in these sluggish combos, like into a block, for example, or even a backstep, like a sidestep, like in Yakuza, that would have made this game, one, faster paced, and two, you know, there would have been some skill to it. But no, instead, we donkey kick and we leg sweep and we ragdoll, baby. That's how we do it here.
And I mean, even in like the 2.5D, you know, fighters of the old arcade days, there was still at least some technical skill. Yes, their frames may not have been as fantastic. They may not have had, you know, cancels and these sorts of things, but you could still use the environment to your effect. The fucking game, you spend so much time in bare-ass corridors or in wide open spaces, you can't use an environment to your assistance. Your allies are getting thrown around like hamburger at a goddamn fat festival. The enemies are just flying through the air like the greatest of ease. And there you are trying to figure out, like, am I hitting the right punch button? What's going on?
Yeah, it's tough. It's not the best gameplay experience. You know, cheese is your friend in this game, I think. At a certain point, you just find what works and you kind of spam it until you win. Or at least that's what I did.
Yeah, that's in a lot of cases what I did after a while. It's just, especially with some later enemies, when you're fighting the robots, they are so tanky. And they have so much, they absorb so much damage.
Oh, yeah.
Keep in mind, the one mental disconnect I always have in fighting games like this is when you're a very human fighter with flesh and bones punching a metal monstrosity. Yes, if you're a black belt, triple degree martial artist, you can break a certain amount of boards, you can break a certain amount of cinder blocks, you can break ice. Nobody's punching through steel. Has never happened in human history. Will never happen.
But it does let us live out our innermost desires to hit computer.
That's true.
Who among us doesn't want to hit computer?
Yeah, and that's probably what I did to my PS2 at some point.
I had an uncle, like, way back in the early days of computers, like I'm talking Doom on computers. I had an uncle that got mad at it for some reason. I don't think it was Doom related. It was probably just computer, and he just fucking punched it and ended up breaking his knuckles because those things are tanks.
Yep. It's kind of like that scene from the movie Office Space where they take the printer that keeps jamming out into the field and beat the shit out of it for a while.
Yeah, we all felt that deep in our souls.
We've all felt that, yeah.
So let's move on to something in this game that I think is a little more positive, or at least I think you might feel this way. I certainly do. Let's talk about the music.
You know what? It's not bad.
I quite like it. I'm not gonna lie.
There are some pretty bumping tracks. I remember positively.
One of the aesthetics that Matsueda and Iguchi used a lot in, I think this was in Final Fantasy X too. I might be remembering wrong, but they use a lot of this, like, jazz overlaid piano, doing a lot of jazz sort of angular figures, like a lot of stacked fourths, like diminished stacked fourths, augmented runs over top of, like, JRPG kind of chord progression music. And that happens a lot in here. It is really, really cool. But I'll tell you what, though. It's not that. It's not the bumpin' kind of intense, like, club bouncer music. club
The Bouncer.
music. It's like there are some scenes that are trying to be dramatic, kind of like an action movie, and the scoring behind it is like flutes using not extended techniques, but playing in non-traditional ways, like flutter-tonguing across the mouthpiece to give a more percussive effect, or percussionists bowing a cymbal, like taking a bow from a cello and bowing a cymbal, which produces like an eerie sound effect. Or like a guitar using a pick scrape, for example, that you hear in like any number of rock music. They use like noises, quote unquote, like that for tension effect. Or they do other cool things like they'll have like strings, high strings, violins playing without vibrato to give a sort of eerie, ethereal feel. It is super cool. I was not expecting to love the soundtrack to this as much as I did.
Yeah, admittedly, and as I said, not someone who has a great degree of music education, but there is a lot of cases where the soundtrack is surprising. Even in the dialogue and line delivery, as ham-fisted as it can be at times, the music stings, again, as you said, the soundtrack use, the moment-to-moment play of sound can be surprisingly intense. And very on point for helping set a mood.
Oh yeah, they do a really great job of riding the line between like a party brawler game and like a cheesy action flick and something kind of serious. I think there's even one scene, and if I can think of it, I'll insert the music here. There's one scene that's like emotional, and you know, somebody gives a cliche line like, can we leave the romance for later? And there's like a lush string background that's like totally off of like a TV Lifetime movie. It's
absolutely.
It's very cool. They did nice work.
Yeah, that's, again, speaking in a positive light, I will have to agree that not just the soundtrack, but the use of the soundscape was excellently done.
Now, you had mentioned voice acting. Did you want to talk about that here? There's one voice actor in particular that is like fucking wild, dude. I was laughing at more of their lines than not. There are some names in here. I mean, for example, from the first line, the character Ko says, "I pegged it immediately" as Spike Spiegel, a.k.a. Steve Bloom from Cowboy Bebop and, you know, anime royalty. He's in here.
Yeah, absolutely. The second I heard him speak, I'm like, wait a second. Okay, well then fuck these guys. I want to be Ko because I get to be Steve Bloom. What the hell are we doing here? Why are you wasting my time? And I could never remember, but I know Volt's voice actor I have heard before in other games.
Michael Gregory.
Yeah, he's a name I've heard before.
Let's see here.
Definitely
this is just giving me a bunch of quotes from Volt. That's not what we want.
Now, whoever played Sion, I don't know if it was their first time in the booth or if they normally sound like that, if they sound like they work at the DMV, because they were wooden. Wooden. Could have used him for kindling.
That looks like that was done by Paul Steven. And I agree. Sion's voice acting is the most perplexing in the entire game. I have some notes written down when we're going through the story. It is very strange and stilted. And meanwhile, you've got other voice actors. Like, I don't remember Mugetsu's voice actor off the top of my head, but he's going kind of overboard and schmaltzing it up and hamming it up. He sounds like an insane... What's the System of a Down's guitar player, Darren Malakian? It kind of sounds like an insane version of him.
I don't know what his exact direction was in the booth, but they must have just said, go for it, because he is the best villain in the game. He's like one of the side villains. He's a lead up. He's just going for it the entire time. Duragan, who sounds like he should be in an English school, yet he is pissy about his life.
His voice actor doesn't really open up until like the very end.
No, he doesn't, and he is flat, despite what the story is and he's trying to do. He is flat up until the end, when he takes too many punches to the face and decides that's his new kink. I also have to compliment the woman who did Echidna.
Oh, sure.
I thought she did an amazing job with a character who, I don't know, there's not really much to her other than she has 2 pink cones and a lot of jiggle physics, and she really hates Volt.
It looks like Mary Elizabeth McGlynn.
Yeah, I swear I've heard her in something else.
Oh, it's showing her as, let's see. She's in Mobile Suit Gundam, Sailor Moon Crystal, Silent Hill 2. Oh, Nina Williams from Tech. Nina Williams, that's who she voiced.
Yes. That's it. And now that you mention it, yeah, I think I heard her in Mobile Suit Gundam.
And Maria in Silent Hill 2.
Mm-hmm. Yes, she is. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, the voice acting is a mixed bag. I would like, if we're being charitable, we could say that some folks saw this as the, kind of cheesy made-for-TV action film that it is and had fun with it, if we're being charitable. If we're not, it kind of sounds like they were handed a script that was, maybe their lines were in alphabetical order. They weren't recording with other people, and they just said the things and collected a paycheck. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm saying sometimes it sounds like it, though.
It does. And from my understanding with voice acting, it really is best to be recording in the room with the actor that you should be having the conversation with in-game, because you can bring a lot of subtlety to the role, a lot of mood, depth, no matter how shitty the script may be. You can really bring a lot to it if the actors can bounce off of each other.
If they can, the bouncer off of each other, please.
Yeah, they can bounce off each other all they want. The bouncer. Again, you're just going to hear that a lot. Sorry, it's in my fucking brain.
The bouncer.
But yeah, they can work off of each other. It's better. And you can tell that, like I said, Steve Blum is, at this point, the man might as well be on the pantheon of voice actors. You could hand him, stick him in the middle of the Antarctic with 2 penguins, and he'll come off with a great performance. And he does. Sion, on the other hand, is awful. Don't know if he was trying to sound like a bored teenager. If he did, holy shit, did he pull it off in spades.
I think he's supposed to be the edgy one, which it doesn't really come off that way, but I guess if you squint your ears.
Yeah, he's got edge all right. He's all square.
Hey-o, you fucking got his ass. There's a lot of fun to be had with this game, and speaking of a lot of fun, why don't we dive into the story? So again, if you're new to the show, we're going to talk through the story beat by beat from beginning to end. It's not a long one. It's only at about 2 hours long if you're playing leisurely. And we're going to talk through it, all of the fun hijinks this one wild night on Edge Street, as we go through the story of
The Bouncer.
So, let's do it. This game begins with a woman in a hotel room. She's watching a broadcast about some satellite project headed by a group known as Mikado. It seems to be energy-oriented. The broadcast is sort of explaining what's going on. The woman, though, she's doing some sick 90s hacker shit on her laptop, targeting and tracking this young woman who we can see on screen is named Dominique. She has a moment of realization. She says, "Damn it, they beat us to it." This woman is Leanne, and unless you play as the character named Ko, this is the last you ever see of her.
Mm-hmm.
Surprisingly important character, though.
Mm-hmm. Whole lot of the story doesn't make sense without her.
That's maybe something we could just say right up top. This game will change depending on who you play as, which one of the bouncers you play as. You get different scenes and different endings depending on who you're playing. And you're expected to play it 3 times to get a full picture of the story, but we're going to let you in on a little secret. Even a full picture doesn't really give you the full picture. It feels like they shipped this game in a bit of a hurry. There's a lot that's left to the imagination.
Absolutely. A lot of this, even when you're trying to piece it all together, if you're fast enough and can read the in-between loading screen story bits, okay, but I think they confuse more than they clarify. It's basically 3 separate main characters trying to work through their trauma as independently as possible while beating up every security guard in town.
Which is pretty badass.
And I guess these are the lives of people on Dog Street, because this is, you hear a lot too.
Admittedly, that sounds pretty cool. You are right. That's kind of. I'm glad that you brought up the loading screens, and I'm glad that you said that they go by too fast. I thought this was just because I was emulating. These loading screens will have critical lore and backstory to each of these characters, explaining why they are here and what their deal is. But they go by so goddamn quick that I could never read them.
No, even in the original PS2, and again, if someone tries to correct me, I'm sorry, maybe I don't read as fast as you, but I thought even on the original hardware, they pretty much skipped by at a sprightly pace, and I missed a lot.
Yeah, me too. I am an admittedly slow reader, but I could not keep up. It was tough. But as we'll see, I think even having that information is not going to help with this story. So who caught up to this woman, Dominique? Well, we're going to find out right now. This group of armored mercenaries diving down from a helicopter as this game's OST makes a grand entrance, crash into a young woman's room. A young woman, child, it's kind of unclear. And this is where Tetsuya Nomura, character designer, credit flashes across the screen, as if we needed that cleared up at all. But anyway.
And keep in mind, these guys crash down in armored outfits, head first, ass up, and then the suits unfold.
That's true, and we get a good glimpse at the main guy, slicked back, spiky silver hair with stitching across his mouth lips. I should have just said lips. Don't like what I just said there. Stitching across it. And this isn't even as Tetsuya Nomura as it gets.
No, he's actually sedate and fairly fashionable.
I don't know if I would use that word, man, but comparatively, yeah, sure. Why not? I'd wear that outfit.
I mean, if we're talking early 2000s goth club, then yeah, he's probably boring.
Oh, dude, hold that thought. We'll get to the early 2000s fashion. Hold that thought. These folks that just crash down, you shouldn't ever call ninjas folks. I don't think they've earned it. These ninjas that just crash down, they look at the pictures in this room. It is that woman, Dominique. When they see this, they Naruto run out, smashing the windows in the process. This is where we see that main guy, the slicked back hair. We're just going to get his name out now. His name is Mugetsu. We're going to be seeing a lot more of him. Mugetsu and his goons do some sweet ninja runs across the building tops, pursuing Dominique, who, it just so happens, is running to a bar called Fate. And this is where we meet
The Bouncers.
Volt, Sion, and Co. All right, buddy, let's unpin that 2000s fashion. These trio of bouncers, these bouncers three, they are the epitome of 2000s fashion. I would have thought these guys were so cool back then. I still think they're kind of cool, to be honest. Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, they are an unusual bunch of multi-layered pastel on black pleather denim weirdness, giant chains that would put what's his name from Public Enemy to shame. Volt literally bought pants for a 7-foot tall man. He's already pretty big, and he rolled up the cuffs to his knees. He's not showing any calf. He just rolled up the cuffs that far. And
dude, I'm glad that you
piercings.
said that. That was the first thing that I noticed about him were the cuffs of his pants going up to his kneecaps, and the pants still reach his ankles. It is wild. It is wild. And of course, well, I'd be lying if I said I didn't notice the horns. This guy, not only does he have tunnels in his ears, he's got tons of piercings, nose piercings, lip piercings, ear piercings, cartilage piercings. He's got horns coming out of his forehead.
He does. Now, they at least, if you dive into the lore, there's actually a reason he has those piercings.
Yes.
Everyone else, I can't say why, because it doesn't make sense.
Do you remember offhand why? It's to conceal his identity after a past thing, right? I don't quite remember.
One of them is concealing a bullet wound.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and he just said, well, fuck it, I got more piercings. Oh, and by the way, for you eagle-eyed out there, you may have noticed the back of Volt's jacket does in fact feature a cactar.
Yes, it does.
Just in case you forgot, this is a Square product.
In the middle of a no sign. It's pretty cool.
Yep. And technically, the dog on the back of Sion's jacket is modeled after your pooch that comes with Renoa from Final Fantasy VIII.
Yes, whose name is escaping me at the moment. Angelo is the dog's name from Final Fantasy VIII. Renoa's dog, Angelo. Can't believe I couldn't think of that. He's the best dog that you can shoot as a projectile at the enemy. Good job, Angelo. And speaking of 8, Volt does kind of look like Zell, if Zell were like a little bit cooler. I don't know.
Yes. Ko I feel bad for, because he's got a manly vest.
Dude, Ko is the most 2000s. He's wearing like, and I'm not looking at a picture at the moment, he's wearing like cargo pants, kind of, a vest
Cargo
with no
pants.
shirt, and just has a load of tribal tattoos on his face, arms, and body.
And since we're in story territory, spoilers abound, those were put on surgically.
If you're wondering how that plays into the story, well, it kind of doesn't, unless you care about the background.
They were done all at once as a surgical permanent maneuver. Let that sink in a little bit. Sorry, got off on a tangent there.
No, you're fine. And then last but not least is Sion. Sion kind of just looks like Temu Sora. He looks like a prototype of Sora if Sora were a little older, a little less Disney, him shoes not too big for him feet. He basically looks the same. He's got a Band-Aid under one of his eyes, which I associate with Nelly to this day. Wasn't Nelly the one that did that?
Yes, it is. And again, that giant chain he wears around his neck is such a fight hazard, because it would take somebody 2 seconds to grab it and strangle him.
Well, I mean, if he were...
But that's how cool he is.
If he were an amateur, the bouncer, maybe.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's a sign of how good he is, wearing all the bling.
He has my favorite line in the game about how seriously he takes his job towards the end. But we'll get there. So, it's Sion's first anniversary, being
The Bouncer.
But of course, the Mikado Special Forces, those are the ninja guys that were Naruto running, they bust in, and so we bust up. We bust them up, is what I wrote. They steal Dominique. This is our first fight. We're not going to talk about every fight because that would be a pacing nightmare. But, this is our introduction. We kick some ass. We ragged all around. They steal Dominique. They run out, and we get the title card.
Absolutely. Even if you beat them, which you have to, they still steal Dominique.
That's true. So, of course, we're going to spend most of the game chasing her. Actually, that's the entire point of this game. Ko is able to pull some strings here and get some info that there's a special train leaving for Mikado HQ in a half an hour. He takes a phone call here, and if you're not playing as Ko, if you didn't play the previous mission as Ko, you don't hear the phone call. But if you are playing as Ko, you hear him speaking with Leanne. That woman from the beginning. She plays into Ko's story. Ko has a quote-unquote day job where, I'm going to be honest, I did not play through Ko's story. I played through the other two, so I'm a little fuzzy on the details, but he's working with Leanne. I think he's keeping an eye on Dominique, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Ko's day job is that he's a detective with an international detective agency, which is bankrolling him. And the reason he has all the surgery to fit in with the bouncers.
And if you're wondering how much that has enriched my understanding of the story, the answer would be...
Not at all.
Yes, not at all. Oh, it's crazy. I strangely and perversely love this game in a way. We're off to Mikado HQ. This is where This is my second favorite line in the game. This is where we're running down there. We see a Black Panther, like the animal, not the cool group from back in the day. We see an actual Black Panther, and Volt says to Sion,
You recognize that Black Panther?
No.
Let's get going. We're gonna miss the train.
like it's the most casual thing in the world. I just can't believe that, and it's the way that they say it too. Do you know that Black Panther? No.
Yes.
No.
This is an introduction to how flat a lot of Sion's dialogue is.
Yeah, and some of them I swear they cut out of other sections of the game and put them in earlier parts because they're kind of like out of nowhere.
That's a good point. I wonder if they did that, or like I had wondered earlier, maybe they just like did that thing that a lot of early script writers did and sent off the script in like alphabetical order and said, "All right, just record them."
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Shit sucks. But after we see that weird Black Panther, we head off. We get to the train station. There are some rent-a-cops that we have to fight and get through. This is the first time I made a note in the notes, which is typically where you take the notes. is that the music is pretty sweet. This is the ambient sort of non-orchestral, well, not non-orchestral, but non-typical sounds. Very cool. But we take care of them. Again, not much to say about these fights. We get onto the train. They're already onto us. They make it a point to say that this train is hauling rocket fuel, so we can't be using guns. We have to do sweet kung fu moves.
Looks like we're on a tanker car. This thing's probably carrying rocket fuel for that shuttle launch everyone's been talking about.
Which is how I like to do it.
Exactly, because in a fighting game, nothing works like a firearm.
Except these guns that I have tickets to. Do you have
Yeah,
tickets
I have these.
to?
Yeah, I see these guns all night, baby. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Jesus fucking Christ. I mean, it's the kind of game that'll do that to you.
I tell you, man, you spend enough time with this and you come around to it in a sick kind of way. It invades your brain.
I mean, look, I played the game multiple times just to see, like, if I was crazy. And after a while, it's like, I guess I am.
We jump onto the top of the train, and this is where we're introduced to Echidna. We're introduced to Echidna, her goons, and, if you don't mind me saying so, her titty physics. Because it's front and center when she's introduced, and they be bouncing.
Yeah, and she's the only one, keep in mind. All the other
That's true.
adult female characters are on lock.
They do make it a point, too. Like, when she's introduced, she walks towards the camera and off screen, and they make it a point to put the camera where they do, is, I think, a good way to say it.
Yes.
Echidna has background with Volt. We learn more about this, especially if we're playing Volt, we learn more. She and Volt do not get along anymore. He says a super badass line.
But I'm not the Volt you once knew. Now it's your turn to take a trip to hell.
Before you fight her. She fights like Eddie Gordo from Tekken 3.
Eddie Gordo, win. Come on.
And she's, like I said, if sweep the leg is what you've been going on so far, you will actually have a little trouble with Echidna because she stays low to the ground and will pull the same shit. So when I played it, she was my first stumbling block.
Oh, same.
Took me probably a couple shots to get through her. But that's mostly, again, because she's doing, for a little lady, she's doing very wide, low sweep kicks. And I don't know if it's those hot pink heels she's got on doing extra damage or what, but if you're not prepared or willing to fling yourself at her physically, like in powerbomb style, you're going to have a little trouble.
She's got her hairdo. She's got two like cones coming out of her head that I associate exclusively with VTubers and Jet Set Radio, the game.
Yes, before, well, maybe not Jet Set Radio, but long before VTubers were a thing.
Yes, it's like the not the rave culture, but like that kind of rave culture that would be listening to. I associate the music with roller rinks, and I'm blanking, like Sweet Little Bumblebee, Cotton Eye Joe, like that kind of music. Do you know what I'm talking about? What genre of music is that? I love it. Like, don't get me wrong, I love it. But like,
it's not,
how would you?
I don't know. It's not like techno. It's not house music. It's sort of almost
but
that.
Kinda.
Yeah, kind of. A little bit more on like the European side of it.
Yeah. I think Barbie Girl, of course. Classic.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of those were Euro groups, now that I think of it.
Yeah, a little bit like early, what's the guys who did the song Firestarter?
Oh my god.
The dude
totally
had the twin
blanking.
mohawks.
I can picture it. Shit, man. That's driving me nuts.
Yeah, it's a little bit more like the European style club music than like, say, American club music at the time.
All right. These two don't know what they're talking about. Let me step in to set you straight. From what I could tell, from what I could find, Eurodance is the most common way this genre is referred to. I've also seen techno pop, bubblegum techno, bubblegum pop, which I don't think bubblegum pop is quite right. Bubblegum techno, but basically a melange of all of these descriptors. But I think Eurodance or Euro techno dance is probably the best way to refer to it. But of course, in my heart, I just always think of it as the roller rink music. And I love it to this day. We're going to be seeing a lot more of Echidna. After the fight, she says,
I'll teach you a thing or two about a woman's wrath the next time we meet.
And immediately dives off of the train into the ocean.
Yeah, the train's doing 60, 70, by the way, and she just leaps off of it.
And they mention how cold it is, and she's not wearing a lot of clothing and just dives into the ocean. Sure, why not?
Yeah, Volt's like, yeah, she's pretty much dead.
We don't really have time to discuss their history, though, because just then the brakes get cut. And we're under attack by helicopters also.
And the train's carrying rocket fuel.
Yes.
Let's bring that back up.
What ends up happening is we jump off at the Mikado station and the train just crashes into a wall. Kablamo! And then, seawater rushes in, so we have to get out of there. What happens before that, though, is this game makes a very bizarre decision to have exactly one gameplay section that is not combat, and it lasts like 45 seconds, and it's entirely you are on the train, whoever you decide to be. You search 3 chests for a key card to uncouple the train, so you can get off a little safer. And I'm pretty sure the key card is always in the last chest you check, no matter what.
It is. Absolutely it is.
Like, why is this here?
Well, it's not the only time the game does a non-combat exploration scene. You didn't go through the mission.
Oh, yes, I did. Yes, the Simon Says.
The Simon Says one, yeah.
That can be combat. Believe me, I got it wrong.
If you screw it up, yeah.
Oh my God, that's a trip. We'll get there in a little bit. That also, this section I think can change a little bit. I think there's a time limit if you don't find the key card. But either way, you get out of there. You run through the building with Crash Bandicoot angles, getting out of there, and you end up at the top of the building in some sort of air cargo loading dock. The 3 of you do. You jump onto a passing. It's like an air skiff kind of thing, like a round flat air mobile.
And this has always perplexed me, because if the Mikado Corporation, again, Squaresoft ultimately using a major corporation as the bad guy, so we're repeating, storylines here. The people out in the regular world have helicopters and aircraft carriers and jets, but inside Mikado, they literally have gravity-defying ships that can hover. Why did no one not militarize this?
I'm not sure, man. I think Mikado is kind of set up, even though they don't explore it, they're set up to be this like big corporation, kind of like modern day Amazon, just like more money than anybody knows what to do with, to the point where they're becoming a military force kind of deal.
Yeah.
It seems like.
It's kind of like Amazon run by Elon Musk, basically.
Oh boy. I love it. I love the world we live in. So we commandeer this thing. We jump on, we commandeer it. Sion sees Dominique knocked out in a room in this dome-like building, but before Ko can say, "Hey, driver, let us off,"
Yo, driver, drop us off over there.
the driver jumps ship. We get the most hilarious Looney Tunes close-up of Ko making this
Yes, he does.
horribly guffawed face. This
is JRPG. Their eyes are already big. They take up Ko's head.
But I think they wanted this to look more dramatic, but it just, because of the era of graphics, this looks fucking goofy. I laughed
absolutely.
so hard.
Oh, it's amazing. It's a pure crystal of just how dumb this fucking game is at times. It is unadulterated. It is pure. It should be protected that moment.
Volt is going to try to drive this thing.
Hey, you passed it.
Damn it.
But he can't. He crashes, and we crash into a forest. When we wake up, there are dogs with these weird electric collars or harnesses around. They're guard dogs. And more pressing, the Special Mikado Forces agents are here. They ninja run in, but one of them climbs down a tree head first with the bone density of a jellyfish. He just kind of squirms on down in a way that looks really gross to me.
Those thighs and ass cheeks are working that trunk, baby, as he climbs down. And we should mention, we just did say forest in the middle of a major corporation's headquarters. Not a park, not we put up 2 trees. It's Yellowstone.
Yeah, I've got this noted a little lower. I think I wrote something like, I don't have a sense of direction here because I don't know where the fuck any of this is. Like, I'm just kind of, I just have to say, yes, okay, I believe you to everything they're showing me.
Mm-hmm. It's like improv. It's a yes and moment.
Yes. The key to understanding the bouncer is yes and. That's it. Mm-hmm. Speaking of yes and, this leads to a fight with Mugetsu again. This was another tough fight for me. I died a couple times on this.
Yeah, he can be, if you haven't been leveling properly, this one can also be a bit of a roadblock.
But we beat him. Of course we do. We're the good guys. Afterwards, we got to get into that dome building. That's where Dominique is. This is where I wrote, I have no idea where the fuck we are. Sion sees a tree, There's a moat around this building. I think it's a moat. I'm not really sure. And Sion sees a tree, so his solution is to climb up. And I guess he thought we were going to jump across. I'm not sure. We don't see it play out because he gets distracted. He hears a piano and a song that he seems to recognize. It's being played inside by a beautiful woman. She stands up, and after she finishes this lovely reverie, she anamorphs into a panther. I've listened to a few YouTubes and podcasts talk about this game, and everybody uses anamorph as a verb, and I think that is cool. Phil, if you could anamorph into any animal, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. Well, my favorite has always been the wolf. Unfortunately, I am not built for wolfishness, but if I could liquid sex panther my way into something, it might be the wolf.
60% of the time, you anamorph every time. I think the wolf was Cassie in Animorphs. I wrote in here that I would be a hawk like Tobias, only I wouldn't get stuck. I think I would do an owl instead. Kind of feeling an owl.
To be honest with you, owls are a good one. If you actually look into owls, they are a frightening little predator.
Aren't they also really dumb?
Yeah, they are, unfortunately.
Just like me, I'm frightening and dumb.
I think I would probably go with mountain lion.
Oh, that's a good choice. Economical.
Mm-hmm.
Downstairs, we're going to get introduced to two important players here. Downstairs in that building, there is a character of, not a caricature, but kind of what you would expect the archetype of a Chinese mystic to look like. His name is Wong.
Yeah.
This is Wong, and he's talking to an orange-haired guy named Duragon. And if you remember, you might remember him from the opening television broadcast. This is Duragon Mikado. He's chastising Duragon for his actions. He's saying,
Wong, transfer Dominique to the Gallios. We will proceed according to plan.
But the satellite control center has not been repaired since yesterday's explosion.
What do you mean, Wong? Dominique has returned. It is now possible.
But
as Chief Executive Officer, I order you, Wong.
I beg to differ. My allegiance belongs to your predecessor. You are only using the Mikado Group to fulfill your own selfish agenda. What would Master Mikado think of your abuse? Please, for your sister's sake.
Their goal is to transfer Dominique to something called the Gallios, which, again, entirely unclear at this point in time, and even to me now, in 2025, what that means.
The Gallios ends up being, well, later on in the game you'll find out, it's a flying wing, basically. It's the design I can closely think of it is really actually older airplane styles, like a little bit of like the Howard Hughes and the Spruce Goose, but also trying to combine that with the SR-71 Blackbird.
Oh, no. I understand what it is. I'm just more so, and I understand what it does later. I just don't understand what any of his motivations are outside of, well, we'll get there. I mean, he's got a singular motivation, but like it does, I don't know, man. I'm not trying to make sense of this story. I just want to have fun. Wong is chiding him. Duragon basically says, "Bring it on." And Sion, looking on with the bouncers.
The bouncers!
Watches Wong, who he calls his master, Sion does, get socked by Duragon. The scoring here, the soundtrack, is honestly pretty good. But Duragon says this ham of a line. He says,
In Eastern cultures, they say there's only one way to repay one's master, by surpassing him. This is my payback to you, master.
And this is followed by the obligatory master fades and puts all the trust into his apprentice scene because Sion rushes in. And he is ready to avenge his master. He says it even. And this leads into a fight with Duragon, who, by the way, before you fight him, drops the bombshell that Dominique is his sister.
Yeah, just casually. Like, literally like, oh, I'll take care of her. No, we'll take her back. No, she's my sister. She belongs here. And Duragon does this. I will give myself another handicap as he drags out this long chain that he just has draped over his shoulder for some fucking articulate reason.
Yeah,
he says he ties one hand behind his back.
Yeah. Yeah, while fighting 3 people, and then he gets his ass whooped.
Yeah, exactly.
The Bouncer.
And then he's picking himself up, he's rubbing, wiping the blood out of his mouth. They're like, next time, maybe you should try fighting with both hands. Wow.
That's a fun little thing is everybody will have a unique dialogue at the start of a fight and at the end, and it's always like a one-liner like that at the end. Like sometimes Volt will say something kind of reverential like, that was for you, Master Wong, or Master Duragon, or something like that. But like Sion and Co. are always going to be like given the kitschy little like one-liners,
Right. And like I said, I don't know, have you ever seen the movie Kung Pao Enter the Fist?
I actually have not.
Okay. Basic premises, for those of you out there who have not seen it, I know some of you have, but those who haven't, Steve Odekirk, the comedian, redubbed and inserted himself as a character into a really bad old Shaw Brothers 1970s kung fu film. Now, at some point in the movie, there's one of those traditional things where the master of the dojo is telling his students about something his master said in relation to the plot. Well, the plot's all been wiped, so the master of this one, the movie, who is basically a weirdo, has these flashbacks, and they're talking about Steve Odekirk's character, the Chosen One, in which he says the line, "My master said there would be a chosen one." It fades out, fades in on a different guy surrounded by candles, who then says, "There will be a chosen one." It fades out again. We go back to our current guy going, "Then he told me of the significance." Fades back out to the other dude who says, "It will be significant." Fades back to our current guy who then goes, "And then he killed the dog." Fades back to the other guy who has this awful look on his face and blows this tremendous fart, and you hear this dog go "Urgh!" in the background. That's what a lot of the Wong characterization stories remind me of a lot, is that particular long drawn out joke from Kung Pao Enter the Fist.
Well, I got to tell you, it was particularly funny hearing it described play by play.
I'm sure. Comedy is always best in long descriptions with exacting detail.
I'm just playing, buddy. I'm glad that you didn't take that personally.
No. It's all good.
Of course, you win the fight, but you lose the cutscene. Duragon gets up, he kind of slams into Sion, gives him a real good punch or a kick or a punch in the breadbasket, and he snaps his fingers, and the floor just straight up collapses underneath all of us. And fall.
Just like total like fantasy wizard shit. Just the floor disappears. Everyone goes, and he snaps back and just prepare for the gallows. Like, can you want to explain that shit? Hang on a minute.
Yeah, he's taken Dominique. He's got plans. This is where we get a quick flashback that kind of gives his background a little bit. Admittedly, this is kind of cool how they did it. There's like a film overlay, and it moves not in stop motion, but kind of like frame by frame. That kind of sparse, parsimonious animation. The gist of it is this. Duragon, as a kid, had Dominique. She's very, very, very sick. He took her to a hospital. The hospital turned him away. I think their reasoning for saying that he had to find another hospital was that the doctor was on a house call.
Yes, one of those really old school hospitals.
Yeah, which makes something that he does later very funny. It's clear that they're trying to paint Duragon as a sympathetic villain. Like, he cares for Dominique almost as much as he cares for his own bodily autonomy. He wants to do everything he can to save her. It's just not clear at the time of seeing this what's going on. And you see him get adopted by the Mikado group, by Wong, actually, a young Wong. He says this.
Master Mikado wishes to adopt you as his son, under one condition.
Condition?
You must become worthy of inheriting the Mikado group. Obviously, you must excel scholastically, but you must also train your body and soul.
I understand. I would be more than happy to return this favor in any way possible.
You will learn all disciplines, for your sake, and for your sisters as well.
If Duragon wants to become the big shot CEO, he's got to have actual skills and be good at stuff, which is just like real life, right? CEOs are skilled.
He has to be skilled at literally everything. He has to be the best.
That's totally like real life. CEOs are not just worthless positions.
Yeah, when you get your degree from the Wharton School of Business, after you spent your undergraduate at MIT and Harvard, you then, of course, must spend 10 years on a Tibetan mountainside learning how to punch through stone.
I'll tell you what, I would respect our CEO if he did that.
You know
Just
what?
kidding.
Yeah, if there was just some fucking the guy who owns Virgin Airlines, if it turns out he is like some 7th degree fucking mystic who can float through the air and like really sell you on Virgin Airlines, okay. Your portfolio has increased in my eyes.
We're just kidding. We love our jobs. The next section is kind of a really neat gimmick. I love when games do this. It is a different play section depending on who you choose. So I started with Ko. My first playthrough, by the way, I should say, I was kind of doing a little bit of everybody. I picked Ko for this one, but after this, I stuck with Sion, so I'm pretty sure I got Sion's ending. Ko's version of this is actually the coolest, I think. We could probably get Volt's out of the way pretty quickly. Volt is basically just going through hallways and set pieces and fighting. Like, that's kind of it.
Yeah, that's what he knows to do. So yeah, it's a punch man.
Sion's has some stuff in it, so we'll save that for a second. But Ko's, you can get through this without fighting at all. Ko dresses up, however he ended up where he ends up. He gets a uniform, he dresses up as a special agent, and you go through doing this fucking weird-ass Simon Says mission where you're walking through, and to avoid suspicion, you have to do these coded gestures that they use as, like, hellos. And what this entails is they will do one of technically 4, but they only ever do 3 gestures that correspond to your face buttons, and you just have to Simon Says them back. Now, a couple of times this turns into a guessing game because they will just roulette until you press something, which is fucking ridiculous. If you get this wrong, you have to fight. If you get it right, they just say, oh, okay, you're one of us. And it is bizarre. It is hilarious. I laughed. I love this. Unironically, this is so funny.
There's one, if you get it right, I swear to God, this was just Steve Blum in the booth just riffing, because at one point, if you reach one of these dudes and you Simon Says you get the right thing, Ko just sort of taps him on the shoulder and goes, hardly working, and keeps going.
Oh, it's at one point, Ko's pager, like phone pager thing will go off, leading
yes,
to you,
pager, very 2000s.
Leading you to do some charades, and they just buy it. They give you a thumbs up, like, okay, pal.
Ko-Lei-Fo Super Spy.
It is wild. This is the funniest one to do. But if you want any kind of background or story, you've got to choose Sion. Sion's route starts off the same. You're just fighting. You run into the Black Panther again, and you hesitate when you see him. You have a moment of kind of like recollection where you realize maybe Sion actually knows who this is, but the Black Panther can phase through walls and it runs away, so you don't get any resolution there. But you find a whole data log in the next room with Sion, with lore that feels like it really should be explained in the main game and not just hidden behind one of the paths. But you get a lot of info here. You get some info on the Special M forces who have had their bodies modified by robotomy, which is Mugetsu. It like kind of deteriorates their mind at the expense of their body. You see a file on a woman named Chaldea, who you immediately remember. It's a childhood friend. You learn that she was undergoing experiments that kind of age her body's cells. And you also see Dominique, who is under a password-protected section titled Agalos Anastasius, the A2 project. The computer, before you kind of just stare at it because you don't have the password, and the computer gets destroyed by goons as you're wondering how to get into it. That follows up with a Panther fight, and that follows up with the following scene. But I know we kind of rushed through that sort of, but it's kind of crazy. I like that they sectioned this up into 3 different play sections. It almost makes you want to play the game 3 times.
Almost.
Yeah, almost. I do like it though. I like when games do that. I think it's novel. It works for me.
Yeah, I mean, to get the whole kind of scope of this, it was designed, you really do have to play each one's story path all 3 times. And while realistically that's not actually a chore given the game's runtime, it's just what it is with this game. And some weird shit happens along the way.
Speaking of weird shit, everybody reconvenes in the next room. Sion is getting choked out by Mugetsu, who comes in. Ko sneaks in. Dominique is in the room unconscious, by the way. Ko sneaks in, but he's immediately picked up by Volt, who doesn't realize it's him. Yeah, he gets thrown into Sion and Mugetsu by Volt, kind of breaks him up. You take off the outfit. Volt says, like, you're looking pretty spiffy there, Ko.
You look pretty spiffy in that outfit, Ko.
Whatever.
And that leads to another fight. Much easier than last time, or at least that's what I wrote.
Yeah, this one actually is pretty easy by comparison. I don't know what the difference is. Even if you've been doing nothing but leveling your health and defense points and taking no special maneuvers, somehow this is still an easier fight.
This is also where I noted that Mugetsu reminds me a lot of Darren from System of a Down. Like he's screaming here about how he doesn't care if he loses his mind.
Don't make me angry! You wouldn't like me when I'm angry! I don't care if I destroy my mind! As long as I slaughter all of you!
As he pulls off his face mask, which I guess unleashes his powers or something. He gets more unhinged as the game goes because of the whole robotomy thing.
I don't care if I lose my mind, as he's pulling his fucking glasses off like he's the sidekick villain in a 1980s fucking ski movie.
It's also pretty funny that we're fighting around a sleeping Dominique who is just stone cold on this couch.
Absolutely.
Just unperturbed. We're getting fucking, donkey kicked and body slammed and DDT'd all over the room.
Yeah.
And she's just chilling.
Yeah, couch doesn't get disturbed at all. I'm not even kidding. It is like drowning pool. The bodies are hitting the floor. People are flying through the fucking air. No tables get broken. No furniture gets smashed somehow, which would be great if they had destruction physics, because you could do a hell of a lot in this game.
You do beat Mugetsu, though, as you would expect. Dominique wakes up. There's clearly something building off of Sion and Dominique, like there's backstory that we don't have. This is where the kind of, like, not a sappy love scene, but like this is where the music gets all kind of nice. And Ko gives the whole, can we skip the love scene kind of line? I don't remember what it actually is. Maybe I'll put it in here.
Keep in mind, Ko is 27.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, so he's a little old for that.
Isn't Dominique like 15?
15 or 13, it's not really clear.
13? What? No way.
It's depending on when you talk. I think technically she was like 13 when she met Sion, and then in the year she's like almost to her 15th birthday.
Little weird.
Yeah.
Now that she's up, though, we're going to bounce her out of here.
Bouncer.
For your escape, you get to choose the bouncer, to go with Dominique while the other two fight the guards off. I chose Sion. This is where I started choosing Sion for everything, because it seemed obvious here. But this plays out largely the same no matter who you choose. You're going to be escorting. It's kind of an escort mission. You're going to escort Dominique out of there. Dominique does have a health bar, and you will lose if she gets KO'd. She can also get ragdolled, which is pretty funny. But this is where you fought those robots that you had mentioned, and it sounds like you dislike them as much as I did.
Oh, they're so fucking stupid. There's a very small, it almost looks like a Roomba level robot that has a little claw that shoots out, and the only way to hit it is if you're doing standard, like, stand-up punch attacks. You're going to sail right over this thing. You have no choice but to do all of your low kicks and sweeps. At the same time, it'll usually shoot out a claw, so you're getting thrown through the air as you hear tunk, 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 and watching this thing's life bar go down by millimeters. And then you're fighting what look like polygons, basically the thing out of Balls, the video game, just in square form.
Oh, yeah.
Coming at you. And then you get big fucking, like, the front loader from the movie Aliens. Like, the power loader sort of robots come out.
This section, too, is very long. Like, you're going through multiple sections of this, and your health bar doesn't replenish. So I just started cheesing this shit, because when you hit these robots, they kind of, like, freeze for a second. So I just stun-locked them by continuously sweep-kicking them or jab-punching them just nonstop so they couldn't move. And that's the only way that I could beat this. I lost, like, 5 times trying to do it honestly. And then I said, no, cheesing machines is okay. Honor is not in the conversation for this.
Yeah. Now, with Sion, one of his moves as you pick it up is basically a rolling spring kick, where he sort of like curls himself up into a ball, spins over, and thrusts forward both of his feet. You can use that for a decent amount of damage in place of a sweep. You can also knock them back and stun them pretty well. But as you said, with the robot section, it's overly long. There's multiple levels. Your health doesn't replenish. And sweep kicks are really the only way to do it.
Speaking of robots, we're going to run into another gentleman named PD4. It doesn't matter who you took with Dominique, you're going to run into him. PD4, he's got like this crazy spiky white hair with an arm that can extend like an infinite sort of like mechanical whip, and a voice actor that is criminally low in the mix to the point where I can barely hear him ever. Grabs Dominique, sort of whips her up into the air, squeezes her and knocks her out, and says an amazing line. "Don't worry, I only put her to sleep. Allow me to put you to sleep. Permanently." Which is just incredible.
Yep. Well, Perfunctory Dick 4 here is just got, again, that arm reminds me of, what's her name from Soul Calibur with the
Ivy
sword that comes apart. Yeah, Ivy. Yeah, it reminded me very heavily of that, and I literally could have looked at the two and went, and he's also wearing like a crop top and shit, and I'm like, this 2000 fashion, I mean, we into club, but which club is we at?
I guarantee you, dude, I would have picked PD4 as the character that I was when I played Pretend with my friends as a kid. I guarantee it. This game, man, I would have been all about this shit.
Yeah, and again, I'm not saying if you loved this fucking game, awesome, but I just had to, I was in my, at this point, Jesus, what would I have been in 2001? My early 20s. So I was like, this is coming from a different thing I'm not involved in. I'm just somebody, I just draw comics, man. I don't know. I'm not cool.
The other two, the bouncers that you didn't choose, are going to come in and make a badass entrance here, and you're going to fight PD4 3-on-1. He's very clearly stronger than we are, but, 3-on-1, we win pretty easily. Surprise, surprise, there are 4, I think, PD4 clones, but it gets even weirder than this, because at this point, Dominique is like holding her, she's awake now, she's holding her head in her hands, she's struggling with something, and she yells, "Sion!" And then we see her. She goes into profile like an actor on a dark stage. It's just black except for her. Mm-hmm. We see her in profile. She's communicating with this satellite in space, and I swear to God, this is true. Her face pulls off of her face to reveal that she's a robot, and you see the gears working underneath of her. This isn't a metaphor. This is literal. She's like she's activating her robot mode. Her face goes back onto her face. She's here to download cyber updates and kick ass, and she's just downloaded her last update. She kicks all of the PD4 robots' asses. She just whoops them in an unprecedented way. And then overheats, like literally steam starts pouring out of her. Sion can't believe this shit. Shout out to Retrograde Amnesia. He doesn't know what's going on, but we don't really have time. I swear to God, like at every moment, like somebody comes in and steals somebody else. Because Mugetsu comes in here, steals Dominique, and we're back to not knowing what the hell is going on.
It is, honestly, it's like a fucking Scooby-Doo cartoon after a while. But yeah, I mean, seriously, she goes, "Sion!" and then falls over. her face comes off, her ears pull out, the gears are whirring, and she stands back up in perfect horse stance and just begins whooping ass. And the other bouncers are there like, that's Dominique. Dominique! Whoa! Ko was like, huh, well, shit. Guess she was a robot all along. And that's also kind of a mystery if you haven't been playing his side. And yeah, she is a 15-year-old robot. She will never get older than being a 15-year-old as a robot.
Which is an angle to the story that can be very sad, right? And they mention this in passing later. Like, we're going to have to tell her one day that she's going to stay the same as we grow old. That's a very tragic thing, but they don't play into that at all.
No, that is not a point that comes up. That's a passing line, which means that earlier flashback scene you saw, she died. They weren't successful in saving her. And Duragon is now the adopted son of this corporation. And has to be the best to be worthy, as he says later in the game. And I'm like, then what the fuck are we doing here?
And to their credit, they're making Duragon a compelling villain if he were in a better written game. Like, this is a compelling backstory, I think.
Yeah. I feel like if this were a Final Fantasy game, he actually would have been a pretty damn good villain. Maybe not main villain material, but he would have been up there on the sidekick panel. In this, it's just clownish, and the beats don't land.
You might be wondering what's going on. So is Sion. So, and I don't bash Volt's voice acting much in this, but here, his model faces straight ahead like he's reading a cue card, and he's speaking like he's reading off of a school report in front of his friends. He explains what's going on.
She is Duragon's dead sister.
What? You're awfully well informed, Volt.
Duragon, the present CEO of Mikado, had a younger sister who lost her battle with a terminal illness. Using his position as the head of Mikado, he spared nothing to bring her back to life.
You're lying!
I was a personal guard to the previous Mikado.
Again, like, a tragic backstory, good backstory. Volt knows this. Ko is kind of suspicious of him. Volt knows this because he used to be a previous Master Mikado's bodyguard. So, like, and to your point, Phil, like you said earlier, that's how he got the bullet holes. That's why he's got the piercings, the horns to hide all these scars. So, he lays all this out, but then they pivot really hard, and he's like, she needs you right now, turning this into kind of a love bent for Sion, who has the least amount of character in this game. And also, romance is the last thing on my mind right now. I just saw her turn into a fucking android and whoop ass. There are clones everywhere. I'm not thinking of romance, man.
Yeah, this is a whole, I know Kung Fu sort of moment here. And like, Volt just finally plot dumps the entire story on us. Basically, has known this the whole time.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. He does. And he's just now telling Sion that the person that we're led to believe is like his love is a robot. Why didn't Volt say something sooner? He's kind of a bad friend.
Yeah, he's a bad friend. And I mean, Volt's the oldest of the three and is like, that sort of Japanese, he's in his early 30s, therefore is one step away from death sort of thing.
Yeah, old man.
Yeah, the old man who should know better. Now, I could understand given, and again, listeners, I'm going to do a little bit of a deep dive in the lore here. Volt was a former Mikado bodyguard. He was the former Mikado's bodyguard. He didn't like the way things were going, so he decided he wanted out. Someone in the corporation tried to kill him. Didn't work, because apparently he's got a thick skull. But he knew this whole thing was going on in the background. He knew about Duragon. He knew what he was planning to do. He knew Dominique died. He knew that he tried everything to bring her back, and this was this thing. And he just has been hiding as a shitty bar bouncer the whole time. Which kind of brings to my thought, well, considering how this game is going to end, were you just like not going to tell anyone and just like sort of skip town for a little while when the shit went down?
It's the seeds of a cool story are here. I mean, it is a cool story. It's just executed in the most haphazard way possible.
Yes. And again, as we've said, we have all these great minds behind this game and these amazing pedigrees in various fields coming together, and usually you get something amazing. In this case, we get wacky hijinks. That's all we get.
It's one of a kind, man. It really is. Condensing this next part just a little bit, Echidna comes back. She's trying to whoop our ass, but no dice. There's only one E using capoeira that I respect, and that's Eddie Gordo.
Eddie Gordo wins.
Echidna was going to stop us from getting to Gallios, but after we whoop her ass, she immediately tells us how to get to Gallios. She also tells us that Duragon and Dominique are already on board, and this is where we see Gallios for the first time. And like you said earlier, Phil, this is like a ship of some sort, like a plane ship.
It's weirdly like crescent moon shaped. It's an amazing design. I love the look of it. It's just okay.
It takes off here. It takes off into the sky, and then some dogfight goes on. Like this ship and several other ships are dogfighting in air. If you're playing as Ko, I think you hear from Leanne, or it's not Luann. No, it's Leanne. That this is a group named Lucas. What is? I wrote in here. What is going on? I'm not even sure.
Unless you've been following his story path, this is her. They're a detective agency. They listed as a detective agency. They might as well be the CIA because Leanne has been doing.
Are they Lucas?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She's been doing lead hacker shit at the beginning. She's been keeping in contact with Ko, and now she's flying an attack fighter, just leading the charge, trying to take down the Gallios.
Oh, so she was helping behind the scenes then, and I'm guessing if we were playing as Ko, we would have seen the help that she was giving us. Is that right?
Yeah, that in that early scene where he gets that phone call about the train, there is a time where Volt turns around at him and goes, "How the hell do you know that?" Sion has no idea because he's thinking with his lower head, and testosterone is charging him forward. But Ko basically kind of brushes him off, but if you play as him, you hear that side of the conversation and the explanations thereafter.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So she is the one that's initiating or helping initiate this dogfight in the air to slow down the Gallios, which is what's happening here. We hop onto another one of those flying skiff things, and we pursue them. We pursue the Gallios, and this gets us into yet another fight with Mugetsu, and he's gone a little crazy. He's a little wacky because of all the robotomy that's been done on him.
I've been waiting for you! Now that I don't have to worry about Duragon or the girl.
Who's gonna pilot this thing? Okay, you guys deal with Mugetsu.
I can't wait to butcher all of you!
Yeah, I'm not gonna be satisfied until I finish you off!
You choose, this one throws you a little curveball if you don't know that it's coming. You choose
the bouncer
that's going to pilot the ship thing, and then the remaining two,
the bouncers,
fight Mugetsu. So if you're trying to go through an all-Volt playthrough or something, you might get thrown up here a little bit, or at least I did the first time.
Yeah, exactly. If you're not careful, because you may end up with the wrong bouncer because they don't announce it. They just give you the option to pick one. If you've been, while I'm charging through, suddenly they're piloting the ship and you're stuck with two dudes you may not have powered up.
Right. Yeah. And that's a problem because one, Mugetsu is strong, and two, since you're fighting on this like air skiff thing, there's not a lot of room, so you can't run away super well. You could get stun locked or juggled really easily here.
Yeah, it's almost like a trap fight, really. It's just the two. It's one of the times where you're not going to have your full party. It's going to be two bouncers versus Mugetsu at his most insane, while the third one is trying to catch up on this air skiff that is not built for this kind of level of pursuit. And if you pick the wrong bouncers, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're like your fourth or fifth playthrough, everyone will be powered up and it'll be pretty easy. But if you pick the wrong bouncers, you're going to have a hell of a time.
After you beat him, this is the last run-in with Mugetsu that we have. He gets a slow-mo falling off the ship scene, like he gets yeeted off and he falls off the ship. I wrote quasi-slow-mo at first, but as I was typing, as my fingers grazed the keys, the slow-mo went full bore, like 100%, with Mugetsu making a crazed, hilarious face at the camera as he gets sucked into the ship's turbine and makes a very short yelp as he gets ground up.
He just develops his perfect O face as this thing's afterburner goes off. It's very Wile E. Coyote. It's all I can say is literally it's if you put Wile E. Coyote with the tiny umbrella as the shadow of the boulder grows and grows and grows. That's the look of Mugetsu in this moment.
We're going back to Duragon now, and we're about to see, like, this is Duragon's one, at least from what we've seen, this is the one villain thing that he's done so far. He's piloting that ship, the Gallios, and what he does is he goes back to that hospital that denied him and Dominique entry as a kid, and he, like, shoots a beam down Independence Day style and blows it up.
Yeah, quite literally.
They caused the death of his sister because the doctor was on a house call. I, too, want to retaliate against medical institutions because of bureaucratic red tape bullshit. It's what I wrote here.
No. This is probably Duragon at his most sympathetic. If you've ever had to have yourself or a loved one go through the American hospital and medical system, yeah, this is Duragon at his most sympathetic.
Totally. Yeah, there is an interesting character in there. There really is. Speaking of interesting characters, the Black Panther is back. And it's a mini-boss fight, fine. I think this is the fight where in the middle she changes back and forth into a woman again and then back to a panther. And afterwards, this can play out two different ways. If you're Sion, she'll say, "You don't recognize me now, do you, now that I'm so much older?" And this is where it clicks for him. Like, we as viewers knew this a while ago, but this is Chaldea, the one from the files.
You don't recognize me, do you? Now that I'm so much older than you.
No, that's impossible. Chaldea?
Mikado staged my death and erased my existence.
You're saying it wasn't an accident?
They experimented on me using bionoid technology so that Dominique could become more human.
What happened was Mikado staged her death and erased her existence. The experiments on her were basically done to supplement the experimentation on Dominique, so it would be like more efficient, I think, making Dominique's experiments better. I'm pretty sure that's what happens. But as she's explaining this, she gets speared through the fucking heart by Duragon.
With that chain again.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure it's here. Now that I'm reading it out loud, I'm maybe thinking I might have wrote this in the wrong place. But I think on the Volt and Co playthroughs, this doesn't happen. Sion will simply say, "She resembles someone who was once very important to me," and then they just run off towards Duragon, I think?
Yeah, they blow that, they pass that right off. And there's a reason I said Liquid Sex Panther earlier, because now that you actually get to see her anamorphing, she very much like ripples like a ball of tar in between her transformations. Yeah. So it's very it's unnerving. It's honestly unnerving to witness.
Yeah, she's got like a sheen that looks like an oil spill kind of on her on her coat, I guess, her fur coat. We finally get to confront Duragon here. This is like the boss fight. And it's just like, it's cliche villain shit. As cool as his backstory kind of is, he gets a little cliche here. He says this:
"With this satellite, I will provide unlimited energy to those who will follow me, and I will demonstrate what happens to those who cross me."
You're going to rule the world with the satellite?
Human beings want to be controlled. They forsake those who offer no benefit. They lord those with power. They can do nothing for themselves. Mankind's true desire is to be dominated by absolute power.
This is just cliche villain shit. As cool as the stuff we learned about him is, now he's just being a comic book guy.
Yeah, this is just... The writing on this, I don't know if it's the writing or the delivery or something like this, but it's certainly not, I am inevitable snap of fingers. It's definitely more like, you have faced me, Superman. Now face my second brain. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? And he goes on to do the dumbest badass thing I think I've ever seen in a video game. This entire time, Duragon has been wearing this large, floor-length pimp coat with a chain over one shoulder. He flips it off, and there he is in his Oshkosh overalls, ready to brawl.
Well, it's even more badass, though, because he doesn't take them off until the second stage of his boss fight. Like, that's when you know shit's getting real, because he's wearing his overalls with no shirt.
Yeah, exactly. And a mystic tattoo appears on his back that fades back out.
I think that's only if you get the special fight, because I don't think that's in every... I supplemented a lot with YouTube playthroughs, but I think that's only if you, like, meet certain conditions. To this game's credit, like, to get certain fights, you do have to meet conditions, like play certain missions as certain people, you know? Like, I think, isn't there a Wong fight that you can do?
Yeah, you have to do, like, a switch between, I think, Sion and Ko. Somehow to basically end up getting a fight with Wong yourself, which is, and again, like I said, to the game's credit, they do try to give little bits of divergent paths and little Easter eggs. But in the case of Duragon, it hardly matters. It's all bullshit, and it's all bad for you, and we're here for it, eating bucketfuls of popcorn while fucking watching this disaster.
Oh, that was a great pull, man. I fucking love Carlin. He's all-time favorite.
Yep, absolutely. One of my favorite lines by him.
I would say that this is a tough fight, but at this point, I am just doing the same moves over and over again because I want to win, and it works. You know?
You can, if you know what you're doing, Duragon is the final fight, and you could curb stomp him in seconds. Because he doesn't do anything beyond, like, a couple, like, literally Tekken-style, like, fiery attacks, and as long as you just keep sweeping the leg, you become the world's best janitor. Not a bouncer, a janitor. You sweep the leg, you win.
Yep. Yeah, pretty much. If you meet those conditions, you get that third fight that you mentioned where the tattoo on his back, the dragon comes in. He's like a Temu Yakuza Kiryu Kazuma, which admittedly the fight does look pretty hard, but I didn't get it. Otherwise, you beat him here. You're the stud. You're the hero. Sion says the greatest line in this game.
I'm a bouncer. I make a living putting my life on the line.
I love it so much. It's so good.
It's fucking Steven Seagal levels of bullshit, but, why not?
Look out, everybody. We're about to collide with the satellite, the one that was communicating with Dominique. Speaking of, she's awake now. She tells us that the back of the ship is going to return to Earth. Gallios is going to fall apart, like dislodge. In Ko's playthrough, I'm pretty sure Leanne will tell him that, like it's supposed to do that.
Yeah, basically she tells them, everyone get to the back of the ship now so we can get you.
If you're not in his playthrough, Dominique says that. Sion will say in the flattest affectation possible.
In your dream?
It's true.
I'm gonna trust Dominique.
We get a special scene here in Sion's playthrough. Chaldea will be here. She'll guide us out through the doors. We're running out of the ship before it detaches and hits the satellite. And she's helping guide us out. We need to get out before Gallios pulls itself apart. And we get this full-on cheesy action scene where the music fades, it's totally silent, and in slow motion, Chaldea pushes Sion, who's carrying Dominique, through the last closing gate, so he makes it through, but now she can't get through, and then he's like, "Oh, Chaldea!" And she's like, "I'm not the one who needs you now," and the door closes, and this is where I knew the title of this episode was going to be Absolute Cinema.
Absolute Cinema.
This is so wild. I'm so happy I did a Sion playthrough.
And you know what? It only gets fucking weirder from there, because the satellite collides with the rest of the Gallios, and in one sequence, it's not just it blows up. I think if you get the final battle, you see Duragon's dead body floating in space for all time, like it's 2001: A Space Odyssey, and Kubrick is just off camera going, "Again!"
And you get a close up on his locket that he's wearing. It's a picture of Dominique. So they're letting you know, like he's not a bad guy. At heart, he was doing. He had motive. We didn't explore it as well as we could have, but he's got motive.
Yeah, he wanted genocide, authoritarian murder for a good reason.
We get a cliche epilogue here that goes back to the bar. We get that bar music, that kind of jukebox piano music. Ko even references, quote, that one incident, like every movie has to do in the epilogue.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Whoever's ending you get here, it's their shift. So like Volt, for example, will be standing outside. Dominique comes up and she's like, hey, you've been looking a lot kinder lately. And he'll say, well, that's not good for my job, which is kind of funny, to be honest.
Yeah.
In Volt's ending, Echidna comes up and she says that she's looking to become
the bouncer,
which, kind of a nice little ending. They kind of make up a little bit. It's pretty nice.
A little bit, yeah.
Sion's ending is kind of my least favorite. Like, he's standing out there. Him and Dominique have some of the most perplexing voice acting in this section I've ever heard. He's wearing a pendant that she got him.
You're wearing it!
Isn't that what a pendant's for?
I'm so happy. Thank you, Sion.
Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you.
What is it?
Thanks.
For what?
Thanks for the pendant.
Ko's ending is the most different, though, I think, right?
Yeah. In his ending, Leanne calls him and says, you need to come to the park now. And he's like, but I'm working. She says, this is different. Come now. So he basically leaves. He leaves the bouncer, shows up at the park, which is one of the ones you fought through earlier in the game. And she says, I have to fight you now to prove you're worthy to continue this job.
Well, no. She doesn't even say that. The quote is, I wrote this down. She says, I've got special orders from command. I'm here to fight you. And that's it.
Yes, you're right.
That's it.
Yeah.
She does say that it was a test afterwards, but that's what launches you into the fight. Just like, let's go. Dude, the more we talk about this game, the more I love it. I really do.
Now, I will say there's, speaking of like asides and whatnot, and the bar and whatnot, there is a weird thing that Volt does early on, where right before the action kicks off, it starts snowing outside. He looks up at the sky, goes, "Strange, it's snowing in spring," or something akin to that. And they never mention it. It doesn't snow throughout the game. It's not winter. They don't ever come back around to that. Like, that's one of the many like dead ends of this game that I'm like, was this supposed to mean something? Like, did we lose? Did something get cut here? I don't know. It's just this game is just a lot for a 2-hour playtime game. It's a lot.
I think that's got to be the case. Like, not necessarily cut, but I think this game shipped with a lot of missing puzzle pieces. I don't think this was the finished product they intended. I don't know that for sure, but I would bet.
I think so. I think there was maybe to make because of what it was already behind what should have been a launch title, maybe to get it to market, they may have made some harsh cuts and then had to sort of Frankenstein this thing back together. I'm not really sure. Speaking
of dead ends, if you did Sion's playthrough, you get an epilogue scene where it's raining and he's wearing his hood. Sion is. And it shows him meeting Dominique, what I assume to be the first time, because, they're like, what's your name? I'm Dominique. Who are you? I'm Sion Barzad. And that's it. I'm assuming this was when they first met. Like, this scene really confused me.
Yeah, they put it right at the literal tail end of the game. If you play through Sion's levels the whole way, she is hiding under an underpass while it's raining. She looks like a bum. He just like runs up to her, sees her there, and they introduce each other, and then cue to credits.
That's so bizarre to me. What I thought at first, because at this point we know Dominique is an android. She's never aging. And I was like, maybe my eyes are playing tricks on me. Is Sion just older and like Dominique has forgotten? But that doesn't make sense because Sion doesn't really show that he knows who she is. Why would they put this here? This is so strange.
I just don't know. It doesn't make any sense why Why? Why is the only thing I can say, because it truly does not make sense.
It makes me feel like I'm dumb and I'm missing something like that they were trying to do.
Yeah, I don't feel that way. I mean, if that's the case, then I am too, because this is one of those open sort of weird dead ends that I'm sitting, even years later, I've sat here and gone, did I miss something? Was there a key piece of the plot that somehow got lost? Did something come up on one of the loading screens that was integral?
I bet.
Maybe it did. I don't know. I just don't know. All these years later, I just don't know.
And like that's the end. But the ending, we got to talk about the ending credits theme, which is sung by who is it? Shanice? Is that it?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, Ray from our Discord would be all over this. He's all about that era of music.
And I mean, it is I don't know, I don't want to put this in a way that is insulting to listeners, because this very much reminds me of like the ending credits song you would hear in a movie like Lethal Weapon or something like that. She's singing about like the times we were together and the love and the strength of unity and friendship and all this great shit. And I'm like, I guess this is the perfect capstone to a game like this that tried so hard to ape that 80s action movie aesthetic.
Oh, dude, speaking of 80s action movie, the song title, Love is the Answer.
Mm-hmm. There we go. It really does sound like you'd hear something over like, not like Mel Gibson or, one of the really big names of the time. It would be like a Brian Bosworth or somebody like that who was like an also-ran, like a Dolph Lundgren movie or something like that. It would end on that one.
This was wild. I'm so happy you agreed to do this on the show. I've seen this game memed all the time, and I'm of two minds. Is this game a hidden gem? No, not in the sense that it's like a must play, like it's like really, really good, but I don't think it's bad in a fun way, like in the way that a bad movie is bad, but you don't really care because it's so much fun, and you would never say like, oh, I hate that movie. Like, that's kind of what this is. Detroit Become Human, I know, I was using it as a punching bag before. It's trying to be this big, profound thing, and it's making big swings, and that's why people say, like, I'm not so sure. The Bouncer, it's not trying to do that. Like, I know it didn't get to be the game it wanted to be, but at the same time, it knew that it was going to be a sort of, Saturday afternoon on cable action film that's divided up with commercials for Taco Bell and ITT Tech.
Yep.
FreeCreditReport.com.
Yes. Holy shit, ITT Tech. I haven't thought about them in forever.
I know, dude, right?
Oh my God.
Every so often I like to go on YouTube and just watch like 2000s commercials.
IT Tech. The Phoenix University before it was Phoenix University. But yeah, that's kind of what this is. And I mean, if we're talking absolute cinema, I'm going to throw another one out there. In a lot of cases, The Bouncer is like Tommy Wiseau's The Room.
Oh, okay, sure.
Blatantly a low-budget misstep, a lot of high-minded shit that never came together and is bad. But over the decades, it has had a cult following. And even the creator has attempted to relitigate his bad movie as we intended to do that as a satire. I feel in some ways The Bouncer is kind of that. Now, again, I'm talking a little high-minded for The Bouncer. It is not that. But in a lot of ways, it does kind of give me that, let's take a second look at it many years later and have a little fun. The creators were trying something, they swung for the fences, and for Square, this is what I would call a rare miss. Square has usually had a string of hits for a reason. They've had a couple misses. They've had a couple also-rans. I liked, when I played a little bit of it, Einhander, which was another Square game, their entry into the shmup. And it was not well received. Not many people remember it. but it was okay for its time. The bouncer isn't bad, or the bouncer is bad, excuse me. It's definitely bad. But it's bad in that let's look at the room years later and have fun with it, sort of bad.
I think that's a really apt description. That's actually a really terrific description. I think it's worth your time. I think if nothing else, like seeing what a good early PS2 game looked like, I think this is worth your time. If you're a Square fan, it's certainly worth your time. And honestly, I mean, at most, this is 2 hours, you know? Maybe a little more if you're not if you're dying a lot, which by the way, I don't think we said. If you die, this game kicks you back to the title screen, which will always say,
"The Bouncer,"
at you.
Yes. Won't even play that intro cinema, which is epilepsy-inducing. It'll just go, "The Bouncer." I'm like, yes, I know what I'm playing. The Bouncer. Yes, sir, I get it. Thank you very much. I've died 3 times in a row now. The Bouncer. Shut the fuck up. Yeah, I get it.
2 hours. Like, that's not a big commitment. You can knock this out in one sitting. And even if you just laugh at it the whole time, it's going to be laughing with you. It's fun. I think folks should give this a play.
Yeah. Now, I will add a little bit, and I'm going to do a little bit of a shout out here to a man who will never know we exist and has never heard of us. But if anyone out there has ever watched the YouTube channel produced by a man by the name of Josh Strife Hayes, he will do a series of things on old video games that he played called Was It Any Good? And he did do the bouncer. In his first 30 seconds, he says no. In fact, if you watch some of his streams, he will stop playing the game he's playing on Twitch if his Twitch chat is being a bunch of assholes, and he will intentionally play the bouncer to punish them. The reason I bring this up, and I can see why the man's infinitely more popular than I will ever be. First of all, he's British. Second, he's incredibly handsome. And third, he's charismatic. He actually timed all of the cutscenes versus all of the action scenes. I don't remember every single timestamp he gave. But of the 2-hour total time of this game, between loading screens and cutscenes, an hour and a half of it is that, and you get about roughly 30 minutes of actual gameplay, including that lovely little 45-second searching for the key card on the train minigame.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So, yes, this game is hardly a massive time commitment. In retrospect of me looking at you over these many years, you're still a bad game. But you know what, little buddy? You did good.
That was an excellent callback and is making an excellent segue because, of course, now I'm going to thank you for spending so much time talking about this. And I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about your show, Deleted Saves. My understanding, I was going to say if I'm recalling correctly, but I don't recall social media posts. I'm looking at your Blue Sky. Your most recent episode that you put out was about Dead Rising, a franchise that I have zero experience with. But Deleted Saves, obviously listeners from the Silent Hill episodes know a little bit about it, but for those that haven't heard that episode, if you wanted to tell them all about what you're doing over there, what your show is like, and what kind of games you like to talk about, by all means, the floor is yours.
Okay. Deleted Saves, my podcast. It's actually coming up on almost in May. I actually have been doing this for about 4 years now.
Congrats.
Oh, thank you. It is a show where I go back through, like many of us, I go back through the games I played, both old and new, that have stuck around in my brain long after I've stopped playing, I finished the game, went so far as deleted the save files to make room on memory cards and within systems these days, but have for some reason, this has really been sticking with me for good, bad, or indifferent, and I want to talk about it, and I really want to think it through. I try to give analysis from my point of view, which sometimes is contrary to what people like to hear. Sometimes it is me riffing. Sometimes it's me being high-minded. Sometimes it's probably me being an asshole. But it is my opinion. I try to be as unique but as honest as I can. And some people like what I do. Some people don't. And that's okay. I welcome anyone who's willing to give me a listen, and I do appreciate it. But it is about the games that I've played and that I know well, that's what I do with deleted saves. If you're wondering where you can find deleted saves, I'll be more than happy to tell you. I'm pretty much inactive on Twitter because I'm not calling it X because fuck Elon Musk. But I still have a connection there. If you need to contact me, I'll go ahead and direct message me. I may get back to you sooner. I'm much more active on Blue Sky, where I'm at Deleted Saves Podcast. I'm around here in the Discord forums. I used to have my own channel, but there wasn't a lot going on with it, so I kind of shut it down. I'm pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast, Spotify, Apple, Podbean, all those wonderful little podcatcher services. And if you're so curious, I too have a Patreon. It's not required. I don't ask anything. I'm basically about $1 or $2 a month if you want to give. If not, that's okay. I accept people who just want to hang out and just sort of see what's going on behind the scenes. But that's at Deleted Saves Podcast on Patreon if you so wish. And yeah, I talk about stuff like that. My most recent episode at time of this recording was my foray into the Dead Rising series.
Listeners, you can find links to all of Deleted Saves stuff in the episode description. You can also find links to Pixel Project Radio stuff, the Blue Sky, the Instagram, the Discord server, which is, of course, free, and the Patreon, which is not free, but you can go there if you'd like. It's patreon.com/pixelprojectradio. You can find all that stuff in the episode description. We would be happy to hang out with you wherever you want to hang. But for today, I think that's gone on long enough. The Bouncer,
probably
ladies
too
and
long.
gentlemen. Honestly, yes. Ladies and gentlemen, give it a try. The Bouncer. It's a lot of fun. I am Rick. As always, I'm your host. Thank you once again to Phil of Deleted Saves for joining me. This has been an absolute blast. And thank you, listeners, for sticking around. Go play The Bouncer. Have a great rest of your day. We're signing off for now. And take care. We'll see you next time.